Hey, what's up, man?
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, can you hear
Hey,
me?
what's going on, dude?
Hey, not too much, not too much.
Well, if you can hear me, I guess everybody in the chat should be able to hear me. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 292, Space and Technology. Here, my co-facilitator, Gabe. What's going on, bro?
Not too much, not too much. Just tuning in.
All right. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so that you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those on the community tab that we post weekly. And we will get started in 90 seconds as soon as you guys start to file in here. Also, just as an FYI, we're still doing IT mentorship. So we'll be back next week with Mentorship Mondays for those of you who want the mentorship.
What's the IT mentorship thing?
What is it?
Yeah.
Basically, we started doing this last year. And what we do here and what it's about is people who want to get in IT or people who are already in IT, probably stuck in a position. We, do one-on-ones or we do public forum and have that open mentorship and that or that private mentorship sort of deal. So let's say there's somebody who's working at Staples or Office Max or Best Buy or something, and they want to get into the corporate sector of IT. And they have some concerns and things of that nature. What do they need to get into it? We or myself will basically coordinate with that subscriber and have that conversation and kind of do a walk into the life of an IT professional and see if that's really what they want or not.
Okay, cool. See.
Yeah. because if they had to go to a conference and really talk to a, you know, what we call an IT coach, which is really just a mentor, they would have to pay buku bucks to get inside one of these events, SANS events, Black Hat, DEF CON, those type of places, man. Those things charge thousands of bucks just to get in. Unless your company's going to pay for it, you're not getting in there on your own, unless you're going to come out your pocket. So what I tried to do with this whole IT mentorship thing was to actually give Black men an outlet to actually come and actually have that conversation, because mentorship is very important. Some of us wouldn't be where we are right now without some form of mentorship in our past.
I see. Dope. Pretty dope.
Yeah, definitely. Art Neustral, what's going on, brother? Terrence Forrest, what's going on? I wonder if anybody else is live right now, which would probably explain why we're kind of lagging behind. I know we're way behind schedule. Zoom, the problem with Zoom on Chrome is that I can't go live onto YouTube. So I can host a meeting or a webinar, but I can't go live to YouTube. So I have to get on a separate Windows computer, launch the Zoom webinar and go into the live stream, and then fire up the Chromebook, come back, take ownership, and then log out of the Windows computer, and then come back to the Chromebook and reclaim myself as a host and use my phone to actually you know, work with the headset, because I don't want to use the Chromebook and the headset at the same time.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And then I have my smart TV going at the same time as well, with the live stream going you know, on the big screen. So
you said it's a Chrome thing?
Yeah, it's an issue between Zoom and Chrome. They have not added this feature. I think there is a application issue from Zoom where they have the Android version, but not the Chrome version. So the Chromebook is looking at the Android software, but the Android software is not directly 100% compatible with Chrome. Even though it's working on it, it doesn't have all the features. So to go live, I have to be on a MacBook or a Windows-based computer, and that's where the downfall is. I don't personally have a Windows computer. I have to, you know, I had to borrow one from somebody and actually use it for that very purpose.
Okay, cool.
So I'm in the process of trying to find a very good Windows tablet right now. So I thought about a Surface, and then I said, let me wait until September to see what comes out for the back to school season, you know, for the market. But I want something that has at least 4G or 5G. I'm not seeing anything currently right now that has built-in 4G or 5G. So
to just work as a tablet. Okay.
Well, to work as a full-fledged desktop, portable. My last job I was at, last place I was at, we all use Surfaces. I thought that it was pretty dope, but after a while, it got kind of cumbersome, because it's a little bigger than normal, right? So it's not a typical 10-inch tablet, 11-inch tablet. It was like 13, 14 inches or something like that. I think it was 15 inches for the most part. But
yeah, just step over to the Mac side, man. I haven't had any issues.
Well, that's because nothing really runs on it. But
Zoom does.
Yeah, I bet, man. That's pretty expensive for me personally. They don't have a tablet. If they had a MacBook tablet, then that'd be different. But all they have is an iPad, and that's not something I can use for production work. So, all right, let me get started. Rain and women, good evening to you. Let's get this cracking, man. We're very much far behind. All right. All right, this next one is from Ars Technica. Small satellites begin to offer unrivaled detail in radar images of Earth. A Finnish company named IC, I want to say that's how you pronounce it, that is building a constellation of satellites to create synthetic images of the Earth's surface, says it has taken the first sub-1 meter resolution photos of the planet with a small satellite. The images show significant detail of crude oil being loaded onto and off of tankers. According to IC co-founder and chief strategy officer, Pekka Lurilla, since its founding in 2015, IC has raised about $65 million, expanding to 120 employees, and most recently has launched 3 of its mini refrigerator-sized satellites into low Earth orbit. For the first 3 years, IC focused on technology development, and its first payload launch occurred in January 2018 on board India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. Since then, IC has launched 2 more satellites and plans to add another 2 by the end of the year. It is fair to say that we are moving into commercial operations, and the scope of the commercial services are rapidly increasing, Lorilla said in an interview with Ars. In contrast to the optical instruments used by most of the existing Earth-focused imaging satellites, IC uses synthetic aperture radar technology. Its 100-kilogram satellites use the motion of a radar antenna combined with the time the device travels over a target to create multi-dimensional images of the surface, even through clouds during day or night. The synthetic part of the antenna is due to the fact that the small antenna moving over a large distance can effectively mimic the resolution of a much larger antenna. Lurilla explained that just a single satellite in early 2019, the company was able to provide monitoring of the Romadillo dam failure in southern Brazil, which killed 248 people. Despite the often cloudy skies over Brazil, the IC satellite could monitor the progress of mud flows caused by the dam breach. For the newest of images of container terminal port operations, IC wanted to demonstrate its high resolution capabilities. Looking at ports in Nigeria, Australia, and elsewhere, the company was able to acquire and process images up to 0.55 meter resolution, distinguishing details about the loading of crude oil in individual vessels. This kind of information is useful for independent estimates of oil reserves around the world. Originally, the company planned to focus on ice monitoring in the Arctic for shipping and scientific purposes, hence the name IC. But it has since branched out into a number of different applications, from the oil and gas industry to providing situation awareness for people on the ground during dynamic events such as Romadillo dam collapse. Further applications may reveal themselves when the company has a full constellation of 5 satellites operating in early 2020, Marilla said. This is military grade stuff. This is not it's hard to believe that this is commercially based. This is kind of what the U2 spy plane had back in the maybe 70s, 60s and 70s, if I remember correctly.
Looks like Nagone is in also there. It's FYI.
Yeah, Nagone has to raise his hand. If you're going to join the panel, please raise your hand.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of what is this ICE company, ICI, what nation did it mention that it was associated with?
Um,
I said it at the beginning. I just
hold on,
missed
one
that.
second.
Sure.
What's up, folks?
Phoenice company. Hey, what's going on, Nicole?
What's going on?
I wonder what regulations are put on what they're able to monitor, because that's just like you said, that's like military grade surveillance, that their capability that they're able to have.
Yeah, that's I'm not a military person, but I remember vividly the capabilities of the U2 spy planes imaging processing, and that's very similar to what they had back in the 60s and 70s. And they're putting this into a small satellite the size of a small refrigerator, which is less than 3 feet tall. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the image, to be able to, the image from the U2 spy plane was incredibly detailed and so effective it was. I know all you guys know about, Francis Gary Powers being shot out of the skies in the U2 plane when they didn't think they had the proper type of missiles to or anti-aircraft weapon to hit them, but they were actually able to knock them out of there. But that was the level of threat that the U2 was really presenting to the Soviet Union at the time. And we had detailed images of their military bases, where everything was, missile sites. We pretty much were rolling and had the whole place mapped out until they developed a system to really get us out of there. But yeah, the imaging was powerful. It was a great resolution.
And that's how it got shot down over Cuba, if I remember correctly too. I think the Cubans had shot it down.
Powers, he had gotten shot. He had gotten shot down over Russia, and we ended up having to do a spy versus spy exchange. To be quite frank with you about that, but that was over Soviet Union. It wasn't over Cuba when he got popped. But it was we were arrogant. We thought they couldn't get us at the time, but that we were wrong. But we were doing it for quite a while, so we thought that we were we were kind of invulnerable. That wasn't the case.
Yeah, but I'm with Gabe on this. I question, what the the commercial application behind it is actually could be leveraged for espionage.
That's what it was all for. There wasn't really a commercial application.
No, I mean this satellite that we're referring to. So we're talking about a satellite by the Phoenice that they developed. That's probably about the size of a small refrigerator, and it's able to it has the enhancements of a military-based grade camera or satellite for that matter. So
I would once again think it's probably going to be more for surveillance as opposed to anything else. That's pretty much what I believe. Most of this stuff is designed with more from a military application. That's just what I think. Could be wrong, but
yeah, I know with the U.S. government, there's a lot of times what you call like these SBIRs, right? Small business something or whatever. I forget the last two pieces, but it's pretty much like commercial organizations can apply for government grants, but they have to show they have to apply for those particular grants, and they a lot of times apply from using different types of technology, and they display their capabilities. That might be something that they're developing in order to apply for some type of military or government use for their nation.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because now you're talking about tracking citizens with it.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what a lot of this is. I think the Patriot Act and all that, that's all, I mean, and everything that, you know, an NSA doing all of its spying and looking into what's going on online, all that was about tracking citizens. So that's just, so this is what it's about, keeping, and it's not about terrorism, it's about keeping an eye on you and me.
Yeah, SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. Mm-hmm. That's like a U.S. government program. People just apply to it and do a whole bunch of.
What's that?
SBIR. Oh, me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of different organizations just apply for these government grants, but they have to display some type of capability or some type of research capability that they have in order to apply for those contracts. So, yeah.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Hey.
All right.
All right, let me get to this next.
Lionel, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? How you doing? How you doing, nigga?
But late.
Yeah.
All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from the New York Times. How a state plans to turn coal country into coding country. Driven by a tech industry vision of rural economic revival, Wyoming is requiring all of its K through 12 public schools to offer computer science. Could have swore we was talking about this since the inception of this channel on how you go about fixing the Black community. Anyways, I can't see the whole article because it's behind a paywall, but I'll read the first caption. The soldiers were about to storm the fortress when they suddenly went still. James Smith, 17, and his teacher, Shirley Coulter, squinted at the desktop monitor, and I can't read anything beyond that because we do not have a subscription to the New York Times. So we talked about this numerous amount of times on how you fix the Black community in urban cities across America. This is something that Complex and myself have been banging the drum on how you actually do this, and they're doing it right now. So the very playbook that we have been talking about for over a year, they're doing it in Wyoming. So to say that it can't be done and that's not going to solve the issue, well, here you have an article that contradicts that statement that a person would make. We have to really do a deep dive into this type of stuff in terms of social equity. How do you get funding for something like this? Beyond public schooling, how do you integrate something like this into a public library? How do you leverage the public infrastructure to actually get a program like this off the ground so that these Black neighborhoods that are severely injured by government policy be overturned with a social equity program such as this and get financial federal funding for something like this to actually take place.
Absolutely agree. I think it's something that you mentioned that definitely would play into a program like this. I think you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago or last week. Is just the open source and free community for software, right? Mm-hmm. So there is capability that the open source community has. So you wouldn't have to purchase a whole lot of software, or you could have some, I guess, piece of open source and free programs involved in this, right? I think the only thing would be that hardware, right? What machines would these kids use for the program? But I think the open source community would be a huge, it could get donated, yeah. But I think the open source community would have a huge piece in this type of program. It just needs structure.
Yep. I think Nagone has done work on the ground as well with the youth in terms of space science and other forms of science.
Absolutely. This is readily doable. That's why I sit down and I just look at some of the programs that are going on that a lot of people may not be totally aware of. We don't have many, but there are programs going on around around the country in some of the schools where minority or black kids are being introduced to STEM or science and technology and so forth. As far as coding and so forth, that's something that's really going to be pressed a lot more. But there's a template out there. This is, this is readily doable. It really comes down to a function of, how well we're able to organize and help to put this together in our communities ourselves. This is to a large extent, this comes down on us. And I've been saying that for a while, and I certainly know that Mike and Complex, they've been talking about this for well over a year. They've been on top of this, and I've listened to it, and it's there. It's do we have the will to really pull it? And that's a lot of this is on us, and the technology game, it's wide open. So there's nothing really stopping us. There's nothing really stopping us. It's not going to require that much money, not that much money, just more organization than anything else. And,
No, just
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make a point that you make when you said that it's not gonna cost that much money. The budget is already there.
Well,
a lot of it gets pumped into your public playgrounds.
Right.
Playgrounds cost $500,000 bare minimum, up to
Man.
11-12 million dollars of
that's right.
taxpayers' money being pumped into these outdoor public infrastructure that people aren't even using in the neighborhoods anymore because kids are on their tablets and they're watching YouTube.
Yep.
Nobody's at these parks. When I brought this up to city council members, they shrugged their shoulders and said, we don't make those decisions. There's a fiduciary, a city manager who handles all of this. They're the ones who approve of these sort of projects to go into place and where and how the money gets spent.
Right.
So we have to really put pressure on, in these predominantly black cities.
Yeah.
Who's spending the money and why are they spending the money like that? Needs to be reevaluated.
That's right.
Give me $11 million. You give me $11 million, and I can spit out a whole brigade of black boys that can take on some, the most challenging fourth industrialized emerging tech.
See, it's so crazy because coming from Detroit, there's such an antiquated mindset of those individuals who are in power, who don't even really recognize the changes that are happening. They still faxing everything. They're still focused on, you just got to keep the kids in school rather than really engaging the kids while they're there. And again, like you were talking about the fourth industrial movement, right? This is coming. They don't even have a pulse on it, but they're in power, right? These individuals sit on boards. These individuals make decisions about budgets. So I think that, like you were saying, the individuals who can make the decisions for the budgets, a lot of them just have, especially in our black communities, they have an antiquated mindset about what's really going on.
Totally agreed. Totally agree with that. That's a great point. They definitely have an antiquated mindset. A lot of them are not as knowledgeable about this as well. A lot of them don't know jack about coding the way that they are ignorant of a lot of stuff. And that's why having some of these groups like Mike is a part of and so forth are really getting out here and helping to educate these people to another degree is important. And that's where our political education, as well as moving, political education. Yes, part of that is this is a part of that. And there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Yeah, but that's great. It's a great point, Gabe. These guys they're not on top of it. They are, and they're handling millions of and millions of dollars are being budgeted towards it. So like I said, and it wouldn't cost that much to do this
at all.
Yeah. No, the main thing you're going to pay for is the labor.
Yep.
Labor is your biggest cost. And we know why they charge so much for a playground, because then they know the money is guaranteed coming in. So it's a shame that most black people are not fully examining this. Everybody wants to talk about reparations, but no one wants to actually talk about this. You got a whole state that is majority white, probably 99% white, that is saying this is what we're going to do. You got cities run by black people that are like, no, I mean, what's wrong with an Etch-a-Sketch? Why don't you use that typewriter? What's wrong with that?
Yep.
Mhm. All right, let me get to this next one. We got like 30 people watching, but only like 10 likes. Please hit the like button if you're not going to participate in the chat. I know you all are listening. Swagger jacking the content as usual. All right, next one is from Business Insider. Facebook has been collecting audio from some voice chats on Messenger and paying contractors to listen to and transcribe it. What a face, man. Yeah, what a face.
Yeah.
Facebook has been collecting audio from users' voice chats and paying outside contractors to transcribe it. Bloomberg's Sarah Fryer reported on Tuesday. Users affected are those who opted into having their voice chats transcribed, Facebook told Bloomberg. But the company doesn't disclose in its data use policies that it collects audio from users or that it sends such data to people to transcribe, Bloomberg reported. Facebook collects and has contractors transcribe the audio data to check the accuracy of its automated speech recognition system, according to Bloomberg. The company said it had recently paused the practice, the report added. Some contractors involved in transcribing the data said they felt what they were doing was unethical because Facebook hadn't informed users that they would have access to the user's audio data, the report went on. Facebook representatives did not immediately respond to an email from Business Insider seeking comment. The report comes as Facebook's privacy practices have been under intense scrutiny. Last month, the company agreed to pay $5 million to settle an investigation by the Federal Trade Commission into whether it had violated the terms of a previous agreement and how it handled users' data. Last week, Business Insider reported that Heifer, a marketing firm, had been in violation of the social media platform's policies regarding the Facebook-owned Instagram. One more reason not to use Facebook. I'm starting to hate social media more and more, and I can't wait till the Black Brain Trust makes that exit, so that we are not subjected to this.
So really, Facebook is really more of almost a information gathering, almost spying type of platform now, huh? Is that right?
Yeah, I would say it's one big surveillance platform.
Man, that's pretty much what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, for the most part, it's being leveraged in that way. And then you factor in the facial recognition, these sort of small micro apps that they have that shows how your face would age in 20 or 30 years. That's they're handing that off to Central Intelligence and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So
yeah, it's even used within certain spheres of security. It's what you call OSINT, open source intelligence.
Yep.
Which means it's just like free information that people put out about themselves. Mm-hmm. So say, for instance, you're looking to try to target a company. People will put their phone number, the company they work for, mm-hmm. the state they live in. They put all that information on Facebook, right? And they even go to certain places, so they'll put their locations. So you can kind of gather all this information and kind of make a profile of an individual who works for a particular organization that you might be targeting. Mm-hmm. And that right there can even be utilized in order to find out maybe what some of their credentials are, right? You see that they're, a Detroit Lions fan, and they have pictures with a particular player, right? Barry Sanders. You can use that in a password list in order to try to find. So, it's just a lot of information that people put out about themselves in these public forums like Facebook that you can leverage in order to target these individuals. So, yep.
A lot of social engineering, and it creates one big lake of doxing.
Oh, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
What a great platform. I know you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah. Excuse me. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's only going to get worse. You all are right. People put specific type of information out there about themselves under the auspices of being social networking, or just keeping up with family members or past teammates, school people you went to school with, and that information is out there. That people who want that information will pay for that information, or free information want that. I think I foresee it's going to get worse in terms of Facebook with this Libra coin coming out. It will come out. It may not, by the time it come out, it may not be like it was presented because of certain compromises Facebook and Libra Association will have to make in order for it to come out. But I foresee Facebook having a platform like YouTube, in terms more specifically a super chat, where people can super chat with the Libra, and therefore it'll be more of a platform where you can go on there and do live and get paid, and more information. They're going to think, basically they're going to think of new ways in order to shore up their bread and butter of data gathering, and to dangle the carrot of where you can get paid by doing live shows. That's more of a way for people to keep people on their platform, thereby having people share more information.
Yeah. I don't use Facebook. I have no real reason to use it. I don't find anything on there that's worthy of my subscription at all. I know people send me, blog posts on there, and it's like, well, would you like to log in? Actually, no, I would not. And I'm actually going to use you in incognito mode as much as possible with a VPN connection. I don't trust you at all. Don't really need to. All right, this next one is from TechCrunch.com. Nvidia and VMware team up to make GPU virtualization easier. Nvidia today announced that it has been working with VMware to bring its virtual GPU technology to VMware's vSphere and VMware Cloud on AWS. The company's core vGPU technology isn't new, but it now supports server virtualization to enable enterprises to run their hardware accelerated AI and data science workloads in environments like VMware's vSphere, using its new compute server technology. Traditionally, as far as that's a thing in AI training, GPU accelerated workloads tend to run on bare metal servers, which were typically managed separately from the rest of a company's servers. With vSphere compute with vCompute Server, IT admins can better streamline management of GPU accelerated virtualized servers while retaining existing workloads and lowering overall operational costs. NVIDIA explains in today's announcement. This also means that businesses will reap the cost benefits of GPU sharing and aggregation, thanks to the improved utilization this technology promises. Note that vCompute Server works with VMware Sphere, vCenter, and vMotion, as well as VMware Cloud. Indeed, the two companies are using the same vCompute server technology to also bring accelerated GPU services to VMware Cloud on AWS. This allows enterprises to take their containerized applications in from their own data center to the cloud as needed, and then hook into AWS's other cloud-based technologies. So this is diagram of VMware Cloud on AWS, private cloud, and VMware Cloud on AWS. Basically, VMware Cloud is leveraging the infrastructure of AWS to launch its own platform. So PaaS, PaaS, platform as a service. From operational intelligence to artificial intelligence, businesses rely on GPU accelerated computing to make fast, accurate predictions that directly impact their bottom line, said Nvidia co-founder and CEO Jensen Huang. Together with VMware, we're designing the most advanced and highest performing GPU accelerated hybrid cloud infrastructure to foster innovation across the enterprise. This is actually pretty good. I mean, the technology is already fast from what I see, my experience, in terms of working in the cloud, but to accelerate it quicker with a GPU is probably going to be breakneck speed.
Hello, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I lost you, or I dropped off or something.
All right, next one is from Forbes.com. Texas cyber attack has taken 23 government agencies offline. The Texas Department of Information Resources has confirmed that the state of Texas has been responding to a cyber attack that started on the morning of August 16th. At this point, it is known that at least 23 government agencies in Texas have been taken offline as a result of this attack. According to a DIR statement, the majority of these entities were smaller local governments. Although it has declined to name any of the 23 agencies taken offline by the attack, the DIR statement does confirm, however, that state of Texas networks and systems have not been impacted. The Texas State Operations Center was activated on the morning of August 16th and have been working on a 24-hour basis ever since. Evidence gathered by the Texas Division of Emergency Management, Texas Military Department, and the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, amongst others, suggests that the attack was a coordinated effort from a single threat actor. It has been confirmed that this was a ransomware attack, and efforts are actively underway to bring the affected agencies back online as soon as possible. Caitlin Cipano, writing for ZDNet, stated that a local source had identified the ransomware that was used as being a strain identified as Nemucard by some security vendors. The ransomware encrypts files and then adds the .jse extension at the end, Cipano said, adding, it does not leave a ransomware note behind, confusing victims who most of the time don't know what happened. The Texas cyber attack is the latest in something of tsunami ransomware aimed at U.S. government and state targets. Ayunat Elasco, writing for Bleeping Computer, reported that telemetry data from security vendors Malwarebytes reveals that the U.S. has been at the receiving end of ransomware attacks more than any other country in the world, accounting for 53% of the global incidents. Forensics, from a forensic standpoint, man, this would be interesting to look at. Only because I'm interested in understanding why, if this is government data and we're to assume that the data was already encrypted, how are they able to re-encrypt data that's already encrypted and add a .gsc at the end? What's your take on this, Gabe?
Yeah, it's like this year, 2019, is just a year of ransomware. I mean, in so many different engagements, commodity malware, in the form of ransomware is just so common today. And a lot of times, a lot of organizations become vulnerable to it because they have publicly facing assets, internet facing assets, and people who don't know what not to click. This happens so often. I mean, a lot of our incident response engagements, we're just pretty much cleaning up after
Did we lose Gabe? Or did we lose myself?
I think we just lost Gabe.
Okay. Maybe he had a ransomware attack too. Yeah, so I work in incident response for those of you who want to
start to infect everything. So yeah, but ransomware, I mean, it's just, it didn't sound like it identifies some type of APT, some type of advanced persistent threat. So
no, this is a single threat.
Yeah, so it seems like it's just something, because people just run machines to just, I mean, just continuously are beaconing, trying to just throw it out malware to the internet, searching for a vulnerable spot. And then they just have their command and control servers running, and they're just waiting to have some type of shell to cause havoc. So I think it's very common for what's happening in 2019. Yep.
Yeah, considering that these legacy systems probably haven't been patched, no one's looking at them at that level. It's embarrassing too, because if you're an IT manager or a SEC manager, the shit rolls downhill, and it starts with you. And somebody should have been asking questions about what is our security posture for 2019. You could not have gone into 2019 with unencrypted data structures and then say, yeah, we're good, 2 thumbs up. No, that shouldn't have happened. There should have been an evaluation at the turn of the year to look at.
One thing we hear a lot, especially from organizations that have like industrial control system environments, where the highest priority is availability of services rather than that of data privacy and data protection. They are like, yeah, it was on our security roadmap. It was on our roadmap, and that's what we were focusing on down the line, right? So priority is keeping everything running. Priority isn't really to protect themselves against data encryption. So
yeah, it's a secondary thing, right? So the encryption would fill in the integrity aspect as well as the confidentiality aspect, but not the availability aspect.
Indeed. But then it does right down the line. Yep, absolutely. Down the line, it does affect the availability of their service, where certain devices aren't even able to access certain data to be able to continuously run. So it's just I think it's really stretching and making people really focus in on that particular area. Because again, 2019 is the year of ransomware. It's just so much more common now, because financial motivations and ransomware, they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand because people are paying these ransoms. So, hey.
Yeah, let me answer Julian's comment in the chat. He says, but bro, I don't understand how state agencies get hacked and taken offline. That shouldn't happen. But maybe I'm just ignorant to the capabilities of people that dislike our government. It's not so much they dislike the government. They're more than likely just targeting open systems, and it just so happens that it happens to be government-based systems that are most vulnerable. They probably don't even care about the government for that matter. It's just more about exploiting the system. Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I would say to this is that when Julian says this shouldn't happen, you're right. It shouldn't happen with all the money that gets pumped into public services. But the thing is, governments take a long time to turn around. It's like watching an aircraft carrier do a 3-point turn. It's going to take forever because they drag their feet on everything. They're not like private institutions, like Fidelity, Bank of America. They can turn on a dime and pivot. Right. They need to. So, but government agencies just don't work that way. They're stuck in a time warp. I would assume that if they're on Windows 7, that they had to be some form of BitLocker or, let's say, semantic endpoint protection, encryption solved. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And even as it concerns what type of government level, this is on the state level. So I have a buddy that's that used to be the CIO of the city of Lansing, Michigan, which is the capital, right, of Michigan. And I mean, the budget just isn't there. Those are so one, the talent isn't there because the budget isn't there because they're not able to compensate individuals to the same level of the overall cybersecurity market. So they pretty much, I don't know what it is now, and I doubt it's at this level now. But when he was there, they had a security guy that did everything. So
usually it's just a network administrator.
That's it. That has some type of security roles or responsibilities, right? So they don't have a lot of budget, especially on the state level. So we actually implemented, our last governor had implemented what you call like a cyber civilian corps. So they had, so it's a lot of us like cybersecurity practitioners that in the event of a state level attack, we work with Michigan State Police. We work with those government agencies. Again,
we have the same thing here as well.
Yeah. So this was like a government started organization. So we're even working now, right? We get yearly training, but we've been in situations where we're hands on the keyboard. We have to go to that particular site and be able to do incident response and digital forensics for that particular government organization. And we've done tabletops with the Michigan State Police where there's been certain type of things, right? They will literally give us network captures of particular events that happen and say, tell us what happened. Tell us what happened. We don't know what's going on. So, it's state level is also very different than those 3-letter government organizations, right? So
yeah, alphabet agencies.
Yep.
Alphabet agencies are a lot more different in terms of posture and their political views than local state governments. Local state governments don't have deep pockets like that.
Not at all.
And I think they got this training from Israel, if I remember correctly. Israel kind of was the originator of this stuff. So a lot of U.S. State governors and stuff like that traveled to Israel to see how the IDF works with the state government of Israel to work on these sort of postures, security postures. But they're treating it as if a public service, right? So like you enlist into the military rather than be recruited. And so you're enlisting to defend the state that you reside in, and they're leveraging all that brain power. I think it's a very strategic move. But I should be tax exempt if I'm gonna contribute like that, man. I just look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian, alphabet agencies always matter more. All right, this next one is from CompTIA.org. Shaquille O'Neal talks investing, tech trends, and why he's proud to be a geek. He can subscribe to the Black Brain Trust all he wants to. Tech investor, entrepreneur, DJ, and basketball star Dr. Shaquille O'Neal kept the ChannelCon audience laughing Wednesday morning, goofing on Magic Johnson and signing an improvised medley of Madonna, Hall, and Oates. For a solid hour, O'Neal shared investment advice, his personal tech story, and all the reasons he's proud to be more cerebral than celebrity. Turns out ChannelCon is not O'Neal's first tech conference, not by a long shot. How many tech conferences do you go to? Todd Thibodeau, president and CEO of CompTIA, asked. All of them, O'Neal said. I'm a geek. I'm proud to say it. Geeks rule the world, dude. All right, dude. O'Neal got interested in technology through a high school computer course, though the material had him sweating at first. That was back when computers were big and it was all Control-Alt-Delete. And I was terrified of it, he said. For help, he befriended another student who got picked on for being a geek and learned bit by bit about hardware, software, networks. The way he broke it down, I realized it wasn't difficult at all, he said. I became a geek and hung hung out with all the geeks and really started enjoying academics. O'Neill's love for tech turned him into an early tech adopter, the first one in his circle with a camera phone, an early investor in Google, and a friend of developers in Silicon Valley. Anything that deals with technology, I like to be in the forefront, he said. I called Steve Jobs about 80 times trying to get the first iPhone. I said, I know it's dropping in September and it's June now, but if you could give me one now, funny dude. His investment in Google was a happy accident, though, a friendship with an IT pro who turned him on to the idea of the new search engine. One day I called my accountant and got a big return on that investment, O'Neill said. These
Wow.
days, he's interested in the advancing medical side of technology as well as self-driving cars. I love the world we're living in, he said. Do you remember the Jetsons? All that stuff is coming true, and it's a wonderful thing. O'Neill only invests in companies he already uses, like the home security monitor, Ring, Icy Hot, Five Guys, and other general insurance company. I'm old school in a business sense, he said. If I'm not a supporter of your company from a true business sense, I can't take your money. He follows advice from Jeff Bezos that if you invest in things that are going to change people's lives, it's mutually beneficial. When I first started investing, I didn't know anything. I was always thinking from a monetary aspect, and I used to lose my ass. He said. Once I heard Jeff speak, I started investing in companies like that, and it was a win-win. If it's going to change people's lives, he'll try to make the investment, he said. I'm a geek and I love technologies, he said, predicting he'll be the first in line for the iPhone 11. I'll be standing there like an idiot, waiting with everyone else. As a leader, it's important that you remain humble, no matter how much fame and success you achieve. Just because I've done a lot doesn't mean I'm more important than my gentleman here who was taking shots at the craps table, O'Neill said, pointing out a ChannelCon member in the front row who he had seen the night before getting lucky in the casino floor. We're all people, we're all men, we're all women, and we're all equal. Over the years, he's taken leadership advice on the basketball court and business field from people like Magic Johnson, Denzel Washington, and prominent business people in Los Angeles. I tell you all the time that when it comes to leadership, focus on the task or the relationship, he said. When you focus on the task, the relationship dwindles. When you focus on the relationship, the task dwindles. As a basketball player, he learned from coaches with widely different styles, like Phil Jackson and Pat Riley. Pat Riley was disciplinary. It was his way or the highway, and it was very effective, he said. Comparing him to Jackson, who came in burning sage and teaching the team to meditate. Phil used to come in burning sage with these weird chants, yama, yama, yama. What I like about Phil is he was consistent. We did the same thing every day because because he said if you do the same thing every day, it becomes a part of your muscle memory. The best advice he heard from Bill Gates, who said to never worry about the problem, worry about the solution. When I heard that, it definitely changed my life, he said. Once we focus on the solution, it relieves all of the stress. He also believes no individual can win a championship by themselves and advised the audience to let their teams work together and communicate well without micromanaging. If those things work together, you'll be very, very successful, he said. O'Neill manages his own team using a 1-minute management theory. If I have to address something, we do it in 60 seconds or less. It's actually a pretty good strategy. On top of investing, playing basketball, and starring in movies, O'Neill wants to add law enforcement to his resume. He's been through 2 police academies in California and hopes to run for sheriff somewhere in the South. When I was growing up, law enforcement was close. We had Mr. Crawford and he knew everybody, he said. it's going further and further away from that. And I like to be one of the guys that will change that. He's interested in law enforcement, but never politics. He said, politics is left and it's right. And I want to be correct. He said, I want to do the right thing. Until then, he wants to keep people laughing because in the end, he said, in the success, investments, and celebrity don't matter. I want people to say, when I met Shaquille O'Neal, he was a nice guy. Or in the manosphere, nice guys get rejected. I think this is pretty dope, man. I can't say I disagree with him anywhere on any of this.
Excuse me. He says he's a geek and he loves it. Black people follow Shaquille O'Neal. There's a difference between liking tech and being immersed, building it, knowing how it works, want to build your own. That's the geek part. That is the immersion. That is the learning how it works, learning how to build your own. That is that part. His term geek is not what is pushed here on his channel of know your craft, code, build your own applications, open source, things of that nature. And I say this to say, I think Black people take these words lightly, not to get on the word geek or anything, but geeks are people who are really into it. This 24/7, 365, 24 hours a day if they can, even in their sleep. And remember a couple of years ago, people started wearing glasses, but without the lenses and had that geek look. It's like a lot of Black people take the facade, but not the steak and potatoes. They want you to look upon them as being this, but they're not actually it.
It's the
So,
caricature
yeah,
of a geek, but not the actual lifestyle. Because
exactly.
geeks, nerds, that's those are identities within culture. And then there's culture within, the geeks and the nerds, like the Red Bull, the constant energy drinks, the bad food that they eat. I mean, now it's starting to change. You're starting to see more snacks and stuff. Guys are adopting more healthy snacks. But for all intents and purposes, there is a certain lingo, there's a certain way of thinking, way of operating, way you engage the environment, the way you engage problems, the way you engage people and process. All of that stuff matters in the realm of a geek and a nerd. I know some people are like, well, what's the difference between a geek and a nerd? Well, nerds are academic and geeks are more um, intuitive. So there's an aspect to geeks that says, I see a problem and I try to solve it, or I try to break it, or I try to modify it. Whereas nerds are extremely academic in their approach to things. There's a process that is involved in how they approach issues. That's my understanding of the two terms. So when people say, you need you geeks and nerds and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's a difference between how they operate. Bill Gates was Bill Gates was a nerd, and I think Steve Jobs and maybe Wozniak at best they were geeks. That was just how they tinkered with things. They were in the garage. That's how they operated. Whereas Bill Gates came out of the academy. He came out of Harvard. So that's slight differences, but for all intents and purposes,
And right, and you could be a geek and a nerd for different things, much like comic books. We have all these comic book movies coming out, and there's people that watch it because they had some type of uh, um, reading of them when they were younger, but you know your true place within that realm of geek and nerddom of comic books when you look at these YouTube channels, and that's all they talk about, nothing else. And it's like a world of that. That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. It's one thing to say, oh, Wakanda and what are t-shirts, and okay, you call yourself a comic book geek or a comic book nerd. No, you're not. No, this. I can show you people who new rock stars, comic wonders, all these YouTube uh, videos, and I say this to say the same thing with Shaq. Okay, it's fine. He's investing into things. That's what you should do when you make multi-millions of dollars a year. But to call yourself a geek and a nerd, and people follow you, I can show you real geeks and nerds that are in the trenches of these things, and that's the only thing I'm pointing out. That is, I don't want black people to take on the facade or the caricature. I want them to actually be the ones, the image people think about when they say geeks and nerds of science and technology.
Well, I think in Shaquille's case, he's a very busy person. He's everywhere. Like
Yeah.
he's everywhere. He doesn't stand still at all. Plus, he has a PhD now. So he's trying to get into law for it. I mean, the article points this out, but the point that I'm making here, he's too actively doing other things in terms of having his, he spread very, very thin. So he can only do so many, actively be involved in the community for so long. But I get where he's coming from, right? He's geek minded, and that's a perspective that I think most guys like him are in, right? If he had the opportunity, if he wasn't involved, if he didn't have his hands in so many different pies, this is exactly what he would be doing, right? He would be right there. I'm surprised he doesn't have his own tech company though. Very surprised at that. Shaquille O'Neal, Samsung kind of company that produces phones and stuff like that in predominantly black neighborhoods, and him giving back to the community and hiring black people, that would be mega. Him, Magic Johnson, Denzel Washington, LeBron James, Jay-Z, all partner together, Robert F. Smith, that would be a whole different paradigm shift for black people.
Why do you
Right.
think they don't? Like, why don't they? Do they just see the return on investment in areas of entertainment greater than that of tech, or what?
They may not be as knowledgeable about the market as we are, right? I mean, we're looking at it because we work in the market, whereas they just invest into it. So whatever's hot is whatever they jump on, right? So they don't really have an in-depth knowledge on the market. But then again, I don't think they're really talking to people who look like them on the ground, right? Like I said, if you add all those people I just named, that's $10 billion.
Easily.
That's those guys are worth $10 billion together. Now you're talking about taking on Apple. I mean, he's a big Apple aficionado, but
yeah.
See, this is what I don't like, is that people who have the money, they just want to be able to buy. They just want to be first with the new product, the new tech. Or I've been had that since June, and it was supposed to come out in September. I don't care. But can you even load that? Do you even understand what goes on with the platform? Do you even understand how many security flaws are with it? Do you even understand
And
how
that's what
exploitable it is?
and that's what I was talking about right there. Yeah, I mean,
he's like a social drinker, right? The people who go out to bars and they only have a cigarette, when they're really out, they don't really actually smoke at home.
Right.
He's a social geek. That's fine. I don't have any problem with that.
Right. Yeah, and I don't either. But it's just black people in this country. We have a shortage of of leaders in these tech industries. Someone we can look up to and say, well, I want to be like him. And when Shaquille O'Neal say he's a geek in terms of tech,
yeah.
No, don't look at him as that. No, he's not a geek in terms of tech, because he's not. He's a businessman. Look, If Steve Jobs was black, you know, a lot of black people would be trying to bang down the doors of Apple or try to make their own Apple company. That's what I'm saying. Okay, be careful of what you say. Well, Shaquille O'Neal, you know, be careful what you say, because when you tell black people, yeah, I'm a geek in this, and people watch your moves, and they say, well, if he's a geek, that's how black geeks are. When you're not, I can show you a black geek. You know, Roberto Blake is a black geek. You know, he so that's what I'm saying. That, you know, yes, Shaquille O'Neal is a businessman. Quite right. The movies, the law enforcement thing, you know, he was doing that back in the back, you know, when he was playing basketball in the off season. You know, he's a businessman. As you
That's correct. Shaq's no geek, man.
right. That's what I'm
He-
saying. You know, we need people to look up for real, who are the real geeks, and say, well, you know, that's how you do it.
But those geeks are not extroverts like Shaq is. Shaq is an extreme extrovert, right?
Yes, he is.
He's the face of the NBA and things like that. So he's playing a role not because he's trying to be cool, but because that's how he feels. That's how he articulates his geekness, right? Whereas
Geek, hold a
somebody,
second, but geeks also, don't they tend to create and fix things a lot? They tend to.
that's what
tend to be
we were
very-
talking about earlier, the differences between the nerd
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
geek.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They tend to be
They,
very
they
handy.
tinker. They tinker. Whereas somebody like Marquise Brownlee, I would consider him a highly I would consider him on the opposite side of geekdom, right? In comparison to Shaq. Shaq is just a social geek, right? You know, he kind of buys the latest hardware and stuff like that. And he plays with it, and he's the first one with it. And haha, man, and a poo poo. I got the the iPhone, you don't. So,
Right.
who's next? Gabe?
No, I was gonna ask about him because Marquise Brownlee, he does the tech reviews, right? He gets
Yeah,
gets down to the details, but he's not a geek, is he? He doesn't like.
Yeah, I would say he's a geek
projects.
based on his history.
Yeah.
Like I don't think his autobiography, but the interviews I've seen him in, I would say he can write code. He can write code. So I don't think that's his number one passion, but I think he's been involved in the in the tech world for so long. That's how he gets.
Right.
Yeah, he went to NYU for business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the YouTube thing is tech. I think he did. I've been watching his videos since he was in college. I forgot what he minored in, but yeah, he went to NYU.
I thought it was computer science.
Yeah, probably so, because of the YouTube thing. Yeah.
Well, a lot of geeks don't usually go to college. They usually either drop out of college or they just don't go at all. I mean, that's just their nature. Because they kind of rebels, right? They kind of, or renegades, I should say. They usually write their own tickets, or they write their own meal tickets. So basically, what's this other guy's name?
Which one? YouTube?
No, the one who created Tumblr, I think it was, and sold it to Yahoo for like millions of dollars. He's a geek. That's just what he was. He'd been writing code since he was 12 years old, and he wrote Tumblr, if I remember correctly, and sold it for millions of dollars by the time he was 15. You know, and, he moved on to another application. So, this gradients
levels to it. Yeah.
Yeah, geeks Spectrum. And nerds, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying, you know.
But Shaq doesn't seem to be.
Right. You know, yeah, Shaq has the charisma.
Yeah.
Shaq has
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
It's not wrong with that. It's just
he can sell a product.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we don't have the correct figures for younger people, younger black people to look up to make the same moves they do in terms of tech, you know, to as a guiding light, and you come out and say you're a geek, that's my gripe. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just a matter of a pet peeve. That's all.
Right.
Now, I would say that Nagone is a gym geek, He hitting them BBs and them DBs. He doesn't speak in pounds, he speaks in kgs.
Or you muted. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from fastcompany.com. The problem with autonomous cars that no one's talking about. On a recent research trip, I found myself in the back of a taxi in New Delhi amid a dizzying mix of car horns and exhaust. What initially seemed like complete chaos, a flurry of cars, buses, and auto rickshaws, motorbikes, and the occasional cow turned out to be a flow of traffic where where everyone works together to keep everything moving. People gave each other just enough space to merge into lanes or roundabouts without stopping. This is considered rude in the West, as we're taught to wait for those who have the right of way, but it's perfectly normal in India. So I
Yeah.
began to wonder, how would a California trained autonomous vehicle handle this traffic culture? Beyond the official rules of the road, social and cultural norms define the way we actually drive and how we treat each other on the road. This behavior culminates to create a traffic culture that is very specific to each place. Without knowledge of the traffic culture it finds itself in, an AV, autonomous vehicle, would be paralyzed. If engineers and designers fail to find a way to help AI understand different traffic cultures, we run the risk of excluding a large part of the planet's population from a new frontier in transportation. Earlier this year, Tesla showed the public how its artificial intelligence is trained. The company's fleet of consumer-driven cars constantly feeds camera footage back to California for its AI to shadow in the background. Tesla says this captures every possible situation and aspect of human behavior, the ones that go beyond our imagination. It's a effective and scalable way to train AI, but it's limited where Teslas currently drive around, creating a bias toward Western traffic cultures and parts of China. Obviously, Tesla isn't the only one developing autonomous capabilities, but the pattern is similar for other AI developers and car makers. They train their AI in their own backyard. To successfully develop, to successfully deploy AVs into places all around the world, AI needs to be trained locally by applying learning in hyper-local feedback loops to identify unique patterns. This locally trained AI layer could then be added on top of a universal AI layer that takes care of the vehicle's basic ability to drive from point A to point B. By combining these two layers of artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles could not only drive more safely, but also blend in and drive like a local in traffic. Of course, car makers are nowhere near ready to roll out AVs onto our streets. The closest people can come to expecting autonomous driving is through a semi-public pilot, currently happening in a carefully selected neighborhood in Phoenix, where users can hail a ride in an autonomous vehicle, which still has a human driver overseeing the ride. As a result of pilots such as this, and if the AI powering autonomous vehicles improves, we might start seeing similar scenarios more often in more places. But this is where local training for AI is particularly important. When AVs share the road with human drivers, local training could potentially decrease the risk of conflicts between human drivers and AVs, and it could make the AV experience feel more familiar to passengers. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I think it's stupid to believe, and this is just me thinking out loud. I think it's stupid to believe that you should have to adapt to bad driving behavior of other people. Why don't you just correct the behavior of those people, and then you'll have a more efficient
Hmm.
learning engine? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we have a lot of accidents despite all of our uh, laws and
Bad
regulations
driving
on the road.
habits.
Yeah, I mean, you still have a lot of accidents, but what you see happening in India and in some other countries, especially like Nigeria and whatnot, that sort of system just does not work. You have to correct the human behavior in order for the AI to actually function correctly. You can't have a car trying to adjust to the bad behavior of other people and then say, well, you know, it has to be applicable. No. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever type of smart device you have, and you keep typing bad words in there because you're trying to speak slang and it keeps correcting you, you don't send somebody a text message CUM and then it corrects you and says COME, and then you go back and try to correct it and say CUM. No, there's a particular way that you have to operate universally across every single continent and country and whatnot. We shouldn't, you know, the AI shouldn't have to adapt to you. You should just speak English correctly, and that would solve the issue. But if you tell me that the AI has to try to figure out how to keep up with you and you're the idiot, that doesn't make any sense. Now you just have idiot-driven AI development. I don't think that's a good idea.
I also kind of another thought that I was having as you were reading is that it doesn't seem like a problem that is unanswerable, right? It seems like somebody's pretty like, you know, sounds a little bit like a SJW type of written thing. Like no diversity in autonomous vehicle, they're training in their own backyard. Well, yeah, like, well, the problem doesn't sound unanswerable because you can just train it for that particular place, right? I mean, we even have that in certain other technologies, right? You get a baseline of what looks like normal in a particular place. So there's a learning mechanism, right? Machine learning. So
Right.
machine can learn, right? So I
learn.
don't think that, yeah. I think that we should learn, but I don't think that if you're like, oh, it's no diversity in autonomous vehicles, they're trained in their own backyard. Well, it can be trained in your backyard too, because it was trained in other backyards. So the backyard is not the problem, right? The answer is just the learning. Just needs to learn that if people are so up in arms, or this particular author is so up in arms about the problem. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're right about the SJW aspect to it.
Yeah.
All right, this one is from the nextweb.com.
Yeah, I heard about this one.
NASA astronaut accused of first ever space crime denies allegations. NASA is reportedly investigating what's said to be the first ever instance of a space crime. According to a report by the New York Times, the space organization is currently looking into a claim that astronaut Anne McClain improperly accessed the bank account of her estranged spouse, Summer Warden, outside the confines of Earth, while aboard the International Space Station. Summer Warden. Is that? I don't know what kind of gender that is. McClain, who has since returned to Earth, admitted to accessing the account but denied any ulterior motive. She took to Twitter stating there's unequivocally no truth to these claims. However, Warden, an Air Force intelligence officer, felt otherwise. She has filed a complaint with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and NASA's Office of Inspector General, accusing McClain of identity theft and improper access to Miss Warden's private financial records. Oh, well, that would explain it. It said spouse, but it didn't say husband or wife. The couple had been married since 2014, but Warden filed for divorce in 2018. Thought the relationship was supposed to be better. McClain graduated from the prestigious West Point Military Academy and went on to fly more than 800 combat hours over Iraq as an Army pilot. She was chosen to fly for NASA in 2013 and was scheduled to feature in the first all-female spacewalk earlier in this March, before she had to back out at the last minute due to a spacesuit sizing issue. given the US, Canada, Japan, Russia, and the EU's involvement in ISS, astronauts will be subject to laws based on their country of citizenship. This might be the first domestic dispute to have extended into outer space, but it certainly won't be the last, as space tourism is set to take off in the near future. So what you got is like the real alphabets of low Earth orbit. No weave being pulled. Putting Vaseline on their face and nothing like that, putting their hair into a scrunchie. But I find this to be very interesting, man. I mean, how much time do you really have to be in space to be accessing someone's bank account? I mean, what did you think, right? Was there some kind of ATM machine on the moon or something like that where they're going to withdraw something?
Another interesting question I had was like, what is the jurisdiction of the laws on accessing, right? Like how would she be charged? I guess just as a citizen, right? Or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I thought that's interesting. What type of cybersecurity space regulations, right? Because we can't charge, I mean, I guess it can be through the United Nations or whatever, right? People from Russia can hack the United States without any consequence.
Oh,
right?
From space.
Right. Well, I'm saying just people from Russia in general, right? Or people from China, individuals can access us and do malicious things in America, right? But how about space? Does space fall outside that jurisdiction of the United States? How is that particularly regulated? That's kind of an interesting question that I had. It's like what regulations are there? Or
I think the general consensus is to do no harm.
Yeah.
From one nation to the other. And if you do, then they declare that as that's a declaration of war, allegedly. Mm-hmm. I guess if you bring a satellite down, then that would be a declaration of war. But if you just you went logged into someone's bank account, then you would be considered you would be charged with like electronic tampering from long distance. That would be in a space. So
yeah. Okay. There's nothing that brings that person to justice from that nation because Russia encourages.
You can send U.S. Marshals up there to go pick them?
That's what I'm saying. Like, how they gonna really prosecute these? Well, this is just theoretical. I'm sure they got something on the book, but yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
You may very well. You're right, though. You may very well have that if you start talking about putting space bases on the moon and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say some guy was a terrorist and he decided that he was going to piggyback on a ride with SpaceX, and he ends up on the payload, to the moon or something like that.
Yeah.
You'll never find me here. You'll never find me here. I'll just hide behind this crater right here.
Hey, got space rangers searching these space. I don't know. It's the world is changing.
Yeah,
it's changing, and it's pretty cool overall.
Yeah, because Lionel talked about this before. I mean, there's a variety of opportunities that's going to come out of space exploration, and space junk pickup. The Sanford and Son in space. But ban it. You pull up with your pickup.
Yeah,
with your pickup truck and pick up space junk.
That's a lot of junk out there. That's like, especially when the human species expand to other planets, it's just going to create more and more junk. People, just case in point, people on Mars going to admire Earth stuff. People on Earth going to admire Mars stuff. So now you got to send trucks, space trucks, back and forth. It's a bunch of junk. So those same people that sweep up streets down the downtown cities, they're gonna be in space. They're gonna contract. Yeah, sanitation, space sanitation. I mean, it sounds far fetched. It sounds harebrained or all that, but the human species, man.
Yeah, remember
Yeah.
in Spaceballs they had that lady who turned into the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
They tried to suck the Earth or suck the planet dry. You remember that, right?
This man, Spaceballs is a funny movie with a pick, and it's sad.
Yeah, speaking of Spaceballs, Space Cowboys in the chat. What's going on, fam?
Oh yeah, what's going on? Yeah, this space exploration is gonna a lot of people say, there's gonna be a lot of jobs that's gonna go out because of automation and AI. Well, when that happened during the last industrial revolution, new jobs came about that that new industrial revolution brought up. So this space exploration, these companies, those going to be the new jobs.
Yeah, yeah, and homeboys in outer space will be a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you remember that game, huh?
I vaguely remember it, but
Oh.
it was a picture that came in my head of some
homeboys in that space.
A pimped out.
My fraternity brother Darryl Bell. He was there. He was on that program.
It's Lionel's favorite show, I think.
Man.
Yeah, man. You have to think on a higher level. You want to be the first one to actually get your startup off the ground and start funding it. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunities for ADOS or Black Americans or whatever hashtag you want to use to define these people, to actually get involved in things. And we see white states like Wyoming invested into their white kids, and China invested into their people. You have to wonder what are Black people doing. Here's that Pookie and Ray Ray with lasers. More like Pookie and Ray Ray with snakeskin Jordans out in space.
Yep.
With Fat Albert Dragon Ball Z jeans. Tomorrow we get high out here. This next one is from VentureBeat.com. Pony.ai and Toyota partner to build self-driving cars and services. Guangzhou, China-based self-driving car startup Pony.ai today announced that it will team up with Toyota, the Japanese auto giant with a roughly 9% share of the global car market, to explore safe mobility services involving driverless technology across a range of segments and industries. The two companies say they'll collaborate on a pilot program in September on public Beijing and Shanghai roads to accelerate the development and deployment of autonomous vehicles using Lexus RX vehicles and Ponies.ai's driving system. Autonomous driving technology is the key to creating a better transportation system and delivering value to the lives of many, wrote the companies in a press release. Through such collaborations, Toyota and Pony.ai are accelerating the arrival of a safer, more efficient, more enjoyable mobility future for all. The announcement came after the reveal of Pony.ai's Pony Pilot, a test project for product-ready self-driving cars with a geo-fence area in Guangzhou. It's currently available to employees and select affiliates by invitation only, and it covers roughly 50 square kilometers of central Nansha, including commercial plazas, office buildings, landmark hotels, libraries, and residential complexes. As for Toyota, the partnership is one of several ongoing driverless car forays. In March 2018, the company announced that the Toyota Research Institute, its R&D division, would build a closed course test facility in Ottawa Lake, Michigan, to replicate edge case driving scenarios too dangerous to conduct on public roads. More recently, Toyota invested $500 million in Uber to jointly develop self-driving cars, deepening its existing partnership with the ride-sharing company, and it worked with CompTIA Design Research in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to streamline the designs of its in-house autonomous test vehicle. This is interesting. Very interesting stuff. Let's see if anybody's in the queue. All right, this one is from Forbes.com. Apple just gave 1.4 billion iPhone users a reason to leave. Earlier this month, Facebook gave its 1.3 billion users the perfect reason to delete their accounts. Now, Apple appears to have done the same for its 1.4 billion iPhone and iPad users worldwide. Last month, The Guardian revealed Apple was employing contractors to listen and grade Siri recordings, and they regularly heard confidential information from iPhone and iPad users, including medical information, drug deals, and recordings of couples having sex. And now a report from the Irish Examiner has given a sense of scale to what was happening. Contractors in Cork, Ireland, were expected to each listen to more than 1,000 recordings from Siri every shift. Before Apple suspended the practice last month, explains the Examiner, who got its information from an employee who had their contract abruptly terminated this week. The Examiner understands that over 300 employees at the contract. What is going on? Yeah, sorry, my connection just dropped. The Examiner understands that over 300 employees at the contract, the Global Tech, were let go following the Guardian report, which puts the 1,000 recorders per shift into context. Neither Apple nor Global Tech have commented on the numbers. Mostly it was users with Canadian, Australian, or UK accents, and there was a smaller team working on users with European languages, says the employee. Staff at the contractor Global Tech were then required to transcribe and grade the records to see how Siri was triggered and whether the query was dealt with successfully. I don't know. I'm not an iPhone user, so I can't really speak to this, but
I am. I just feel like overall we really don't have any privacy. And I think whether it's iPhone, Android, anything, Microsoft, nobody is protecting our data. Nobody is keeping us there. There is no privacy. So when I hear like things like this, I'm like, I guess nothing's new. Nothing's new to me. So I don't know. I don't feel any different. But yeah, it's not right, sure. But I feel like ever since I mean, Patriot Act can listen to our phone conversations. I mean, so I don't really. It isn't really a big surprise to me. Sorry.
When I had my Apple Watch, it would just Siri just pop on. And I'm like, what?
Hey Siri. Yep.
Right. It'll pop on, and I wouldn't say nothing. I'll just be talking, and all of a sudden it's transcribing what I'm saying. I'm like, what the heck?
No, that's Siri. That's one nosy hoe. Now The thing, the thing.
Nice way to start it off.
I'm sorry. No. But I found I have an old HTC Android phone where you could actually take the back off and take the battery out. They have actually now all these phones you have today, now all of them, you cannot take the back off of your phone and take the battery out, because if you were able to do that,
Well, they say it
would mean that you wouldn't be able to you could cut off the listening device. You could actually now it can't listen in. So your phone, they can listen to what you have to say. You literally have a microphone that's almost on all the time on your phone, even when it's off. So, as long as it has some level of battery power, even if your battery is supposedly off and it's empty, it's not totally dead.
Right.
Your battery's not totally dead.
It tells you that there's 1%, but there's really probably close to 3% to 5% left in the battery.
That's right.
It said that Siri was picking up a lot of sex recordings. That's no different than the clapper back in the day. Nicole probably remembers the clapper, clap on, clap off. Well, usually when cats was hitting it from the back, man, that clapper would be
This guy.
so
crazy.
I thought you were really about to break down something really deep. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me tune in. Let me see what you're talking about. You talking about I'm done.
Clap on, clap off, man. So that's what was happening, man. Bending over, people over your couch and stuff like that, man. Getting it in, your lights were going on and off because you're clapping.
Gabe was making me laugh, man.
I gotta jump off, man. I really want to stay up, but I gotta jump. I got a couple of things to do this evening. But yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I gotta jump on more often, man. I'm starting to get settled. Yeah, I just moved. Yeah, I just moved.
Again?
Yeah. Well, no, this is the real move. So I just moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to now I'm in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio. But before that, I was in Portland for a couple of weeks for work. Man, before that, I was in Texas. So I just kind of been in flux. So I'm gonna try to jump on more often. I've been missing these the live. So
Gabe, they got you running all around the country, huh?
I'm everywhere, man. I'm everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
I used to be the same way like Gabe. I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all, bro.
I'm gonna start calling you the ubiquitous one.
Man, I'm trying.
Yeah. Clap on, clap off, brother.
No, man, no. All right, I'll see y'all later. All right.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna jump off in a few also.
Yeah, we got 2 more articles left, so. All right, let me get through this last couple articles. All right, this one is from fastcompany.com. Silicon Valley is building a Chinese-style social credit system. Have you heard about China's social credit system? It's a technology-enabled, surveillance-based nationwide program designed to nudge citizens toward better behavior. The ultimate goal is to allow the trustworthy to roam everywhere under heaven while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. According to the Chinese government, in place since 2014, the social credit system is a work in progress that could evolve by next year into a single nationwide point system for all Chinese citizens, akin to a financial credit score. It aims to punish for transgressions that could include membership in or support for the Falun Gong or Tibetan Buddhism, failure to pay debts, excessive video gaming, criticizing the government, late payments, failing to sweep the sidewalk in front of your store or house, smoking or playing loud music on trains, jaywalking, and other actions deemed illegal or unacceptable by Chinese government. It can also award points for charitable donations or even taking one's own parents to the doctor. The punishments can be harsh, including bans on leaving the country, using public transportation, checking into hotels, hiring for high visibility jobs, or acceptance of children to private schools. It can also result in slower internet connections or and social stigmatization in the form of registration of a public blacklist. China's social credit system has been characterized in one filthy tweet as authoritarianism gamified. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this is China's version of like a digital Jim Crow. Basically sanctioning people based on the content of their character, I guess. Because because they're a monolithic state. They don't have all these variations of people. But if the United States had something like this, it was like we already been there before. It was called Jim Crow back in the from the 1800s to 1965. But we had stop and frisk. We had those various government top-down policies. I mean, these articles make it seem as if somehow, some way, what China is doing is wrong, but in reality, the United States had been doing this.
So this article was talking about the Silicon Valley companies are talking about trying to do this again.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be in trouble.
What are you saying?
A lot of people would be in trouble
For
talking bad against the government, talking bad against.
Well, you have a constitutional right to the First Amendment, right? I mean, that kind of protects you from all of those sort of policies. So I don't know if that sort of system would actually work today, as opposed to like maybe like the 1800s or the or even the early 1900s. That might have been a functional system, but not now. I mean, you already allow you know random people to use the same bathroom, so I don't know if how that really works.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know either.
Yeah, it plus you have like what all these winos out there who are undocumented. Well, I should say they're undocumented, but they're unacknowledged by the government itself. It's not like the government even acknowledges all these poor people on Skid Row. So what happens to their social credit system? I mean, does everybody start with a clean slate, or how does that really work? I mean, the United States is too liberal for something like this to take place at this point. It's just too liberal. It wouldn't work. It's not. I mean, because the policies that you do have right now, I mean, they already put dudes in jail for not paying child support. How much more do you need to know? And are you willing to do to these people? I mean, maybe the extent of it is the women who receive the child support and don't spend it on their kids, maybe their credit score gets their social credit score gets impacted by it, and you don't do right by your kids. I mean, I guess there's a yin and a yang to this.
That's a good point.
All right, let me get to this last article. All right, so last one's from Fast Company. Annoyed with paper straws, might we suggest one made from pasta? Roughly 8.5 billion plastic straws are used in the UK each year, but as a new ban takes effect in next April, that number will shrink to zero. One startup is hoping to corner the market for alternative straws using an unlikely material, pasta. It ticks all the boxes in terms of functionality as a plastic straw that everyone's been used to growing up, says Maxim Gelman, founder of Strudels, the startup. The straws made by an Italian manufacturer that also produces regular pasta are the same shape in size as a plastic straw. Unlike a paper straw, they don't taste like wet paper. They don't change the flavor of the drink, and they last at least an hour and longer in colder drinks. Let's say you have your gin and tonic, and then you refill it with ice. It goes even longer. Gentleman says, if you're nursing a drink for hours and the pasta eventually softens, you can choose to eat it. The raw straw is also edible, and gentleman says that some people snack on it.
I have to say this. I've never heard of a straw going limp.
Well, you're right about that. The thing is, it changes the taste so much that you're kind of sacrificing the lack of limp for poor taste. I messed that joke up for you.
Oh man, I understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, yeah. A handful of other pasta straw startups also exist, though Strudels is hoping to differentiate itself with a smoother, more plastic-like texture in its branding. It's more expensive to make than a plastic straw, but at large volumes, it can compete with the cost of paper straws. Because of the coming ban, no one really compares with the plastic anymore. Gentleman says they compare with paper straw prices, which makes my argument much easier. Other alternatives like bamboo or stainless steel are more expensive and arguably a less elegant solution. Some bars say that patrons don't trust the idea that stainless steel straws can be fully sanitized. Another option, a plastic-like edible straw made from seaweed, may be more of a competitor. That's interesting. The company doesn't try to shame people into not using plastic. No one wants to be preached to, gentleman says, but he's hoping that seeing a straw made from pasta makes people briefly think about the issue of plastic waste. Based on a theory that it takes 12 touch points before someone decides to take action, he's hoping that as the straws proliferate, there'll be one of a larger cultural shift that helps people consider shifting away from single-use plastic, first in the UK and Europe, and later in the US as the company expands. I'm not an eco warrior. What I've created is basically to convince people like me who before weren't as aware. So straw made from pasta, man. You got something to say about that, Nicole?
Very interesting idea. I mean, if that's an option, let's try it out. I would have never thought about it because pasta is made from flour and so forth. So and then it's edible. I don't know who's gonna want to eat their straw after that, but I would think maybe a more I don't know, something that's interesting. But I mean, there is cellulose out there, which I think could operate even better, which can actually break down as well. It's biologic and it can degrade. So I think there might be even better options. But hey, if you got pasta straws, I would be interested to see how this works. I'd be interested to see. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it could be used as a weapon at that point because it does have a stiffness to it. You're sitting at a bar and some guy decides to pull up on you, take your straw and just drive it right through his fucking eye.
Well, you can use a credit card as a weapon as well. They cut pretty well, too. So I don't know, but anyway, I don't know. Pasta straws. Be interested to see that. Go ahead, Lydell. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would say it is thinking of the box, but like you said, Nicole, there are better options. I've heard of the steel or the titanium straws, and people use that individually because they say it it doesn't change the taste of whatever they're drinking. But I have to agree there are better options, but it's A for thinking out the box.
Yeah. Just glass straws could work as well. But anyway,
Glass.
Oh,
glass straw. Yeah, why not? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of cats in the man fit with a glass jar. A lot of goats with glass jars. All right, man. Thank you all for joining us. Hit the like button if you have not already done so, man. Share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. And don't forget, we do offer IT mentorship. So if you want some IT mentorship, make sure you drop your email in the comment section after this video or this live stream is over, and one of us will get back to you on that. But yeah, also keep in mind that open chat number 20 is tomorrow. Make sure you check that out. Go to the community tab page, the Black Brain Trust, and check out Game Changers' interesting dialogue that he had on Black community issues. We want to continue that dialogue tomorrow. So,
all right.
shalom.